in
Yes.
Spain with this tour, right? With the electric, with the history of light.
Usually when you tour, last year I did a run of Spain and I did all the major cities, and usually that's when you stop. But it went so well, and the band was feeling so good that I decided to come back and do a lot of cities that I haven't been to in a while. So we're
Yeah,
playing a lot of smaller places. Yeah.
it's always great to go back to smaller places too, right?
Yeah, it's fun. Smaller clubs and things like that are very exciting. There's a lot of great energy. Well, all the shows have great energy there.
I need to get this out of my chest. First of all, I'm a musician myself. I'm a guitarist, and right now for me this is actually like talking to God. Okay,
Well,
so
thank you very much.
I just can't thank you enough for the opportunity of talking to you, man. It's like I'm thrilled to be able to do. I have so many questions that it would take us like forever. I'd much rather have you, I don't know, go to a bar and have a beer and just ask you plain normal questions, Anyway.
That's very kind. Maybe one day we'll be able to do that.
Well, you never know. I can only hope. Okay, so
Yeah.
what are we going to see this time? Since you came here with with your normal show and with the Evolution Tempo Orchestra, right? A few months ago.
Yeah. Yes.
So what can the fans look forward to see this time?
Well, those experiences are very different. The Evolution Orchestra was the music that you can find on sound theories, which is orchestrations of music of mine from the past, with me playing guitar with a small rock ensemble, and then an orchestra. And the difference with what I did with the Evolution Tempo Orchestra is I did orchestrations of some new stuff like Valorum, which is from the new record, Embracing the World, which is from the new record, and also Whispering a Prayer, which is an older song. And then I did a full orchestration of the Fire Garden Suite in Bangkok, and that was very exciting. I was waiting a long time to do that. So that show, even though we played some of the same music as I do with the rock band, it was a very different presentation. I mean, we had a 50-piece orchestra. So now what I'm doing, is I'm picking up the Story of Light tour with the rock band, and it's fantastic. We've just been going around and playing. Our concerts are. I just try to do my best to bring a very dynamic experience and give people something that gives them some kind of fulfillment. We do play about 6 or 7 songs from the new record. We do some of the favorites. And we do a handful of stuff that I've never played, which is really nice.
Great. I've seen the History of Light show when it came to Barcelona last time, and it was wonderful, man. It's like the whole energy and vibration of the whole show. It's amazing. It's a wonderful show.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'll try to gather some of the many questions I wanted to do to you. Especially now, let's go on into the specific part of guitar playing and stuff. I've, of course, read a lot of your interviews. Well, I've been doing so since 1992 or so. And you said in the past that you used to play when you were young, like between 10 or 15 hours a day, and that right now you're not able to play as much, although you'd like to. You need a challenge. You said, I think, in an interview to NBC, you need a challenge to put you to play 10 to 15 hours a day. What would be your normal routine now in tour as regards guitar playing?
Well, at different times, I have different responsibilities, like most people. When I'm home, things are more complicated and congested than when I'm on tour.
Yeah.
When I'm on tour, things are pretty much laid out pretty simply. My day starts when I wake up at any time that I want. And then I'll take a walk through the city, or I'll go to the gym, or I'll jog or something. I have my son on tour with me, and so we take walks. And then at 3 o'clock, I start press, and then at 4 o'clock, I do the Evo experience, which is like the premium package. At 5 o'clock, we do sound check, and sound check's always fun. It's nice to just jam, and it's always good to play with the band, and that's a period that I get to play. And then it's time to prepare for the show. And usually I'll play backstage, just kind of noodling around anywhere between 20 minutes and an hour before the show.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes I don't get any time, because of the kind of place that it is. And then there's the show, and that's, a workout in itself. And on days off, I don't play at all because I like to keep my, because moving your hands that much, there's very delicate muscles in there, and you got to let them repair themselves and stuff. If I was to sit and play 15 hours a day like I used to when I was a kid, and it was usually 9 was the average, it would take a while before my hands could handle something like that, because that's a lot of workout, Yeah. But there's other things to work on besides just motoring your fingers away, So much of what I do now to develop as a guitar player doesn't even have anything to do with playing the guitar. It has to do with imagining.
Yeah, well, it involves a lot more like feeling and passion and stuff like that.
Well, it's imagining. If you're a guitar player,
yeah.
When you go to, let's say you go to sleep at night, if you close your eyes and you imagine that you're playing the guitar, you can actually, if you do it long enough and you can focus hard enough, it's almost like playing. It's actually more beneficial to you, because when you're using your imagination to play your guitar and hearing it and seeing it, you're developing your ear. Because a lot of times guitar players have finger memory, and they just pick up the guitar and their hands just play. They don't even really hear necessarily intensely what they're playing. They feel it more with their finger movement. But when you don't have that, and you have to hear what you're playing just by using your imagination, you have to have ears on the fretboard, so to speak.
Yeah, I understand your point.
So that's a really great practice, is to imagine that you're playing and hear it and sing it in your head. It's for some people it's much harder than you think, but it's extremely beneficial.
Can we say it comes maybe also from having played so much before too? Well, it actually helps, right?
Yeah, yeah, sure. It helps a lot.
Yeah. Well, I'm a big fan of all this focus you give to the part of music and playing the guitar as a part of, you usually use the word actually of kind of a meditation, right?
Yeah. When you start using that word, there's a lot of connotations attached to it, So I try to clarify what I mean by that. There's various kinds of meditations, but most meditations are based on the focusing of the attention on something. In spiritual meditation, it's the focusing of the attention on just being, just on your own awareness without thinking, And the musical meditation the meditation that I call musical meditation is about keeping your mind focused on what you're doing and being hyper aware of what you're doing. You see, before you can play inspired and unconsciously, so to speak, you need to be able to go through, or you have to go through a stage of development. You have to create a connection with the instrument, with your fingers. It's like a sports figure, a great sports figure. If you watch Tiger Woods play golf, it's like he's unconscious, It's like everything is pure inspiration. The way he moves, it's like poetry. There's no thought to it. It's just, inspiration,
Yeah.
But in order to get to that point, there was a lot of focus involved, to the point where the end result is almost, it's almost like unconscious competence. which means he's not, you don't even become aware of how perfect you are, And it's similar with playing the guitar. There's a period you have to go through to learn stuff, and you have to become competent consciously. And then you pass into this phase of being unconsciously competent. Does that make sense to you?
Totally. It reminds me a lot of Zen philosophy. A lot.
Yeah.
A lot, and all the kind of dynamic meditation through martial arts or through tea ceremony or anything like that. It's just like, it's so much like that. It's just like, I can totally relate to what you're saying.
Yeah, you can take that kind of awareness from a tea ceremony where you're very conscious of all your moves. You're totally in the moment. That's what those tea ceremonies are. They're
Exactly.
about being completely and utterly in the moment of every action that you're doing, every movement that you make. You're the observer. Your mind is not thinking what you're going to do next. It's not thinking about what's going to happen tomorrow or what you just did. That's why it's such a powerful practice, because you have to be completely in the moment. It looks simple, but really, it's one of the hardest things in the world to do, is to be completely present.
Completely aware.
But that's where life is, and that's where inspiration comes from. And when you're playing the guitar, for me at least, the most effective that I could be is when I'm completely present.
Yeah. Once we see you play, we can tell that.
Wow. When I'm there.
that just reminded me of one of the questions I wanted to ask you the most. Since I told you I'm a musician too, and I also make a lot of instrumental music, and you are kind of one of the biggest instrumental music artists out there right now, and you've done so much for instrumental music. And I wanted to ask you specifically about instrumental music is so wide, polysemic if you want. It gives kind of a canvas and colors and feelings, but without words. It kind of gives the freedom to the listener to go wherever they want. Do you actually do that on purpose? Are you aware of all that part?
Well, my process is usually, it usually starts with an idea, an inspiration. And then that's always been at the root of my interest in music, was having an idea for something and then executing it. And whatever comes into my field of awareness when I'm executing it gets incorporated into the song, and sometimes it's very colorful. Sometimes it's very monochromatic, it's very simple. Sometimes it's very dense and complex. But it's whatever the song calls for, And I don't usually think of, I should say, the majority of my thinking is not based on what people will think when they hear it. But I do think about it. A lot of times I'll come up with an idea first, and I'll go, "Oh, wow, I like that idea," and then I'll get excited about it, and then I'll think, "Oh, I know that there's some people that will enjoy this maybe as much as I do,"
Yeah.
Yeah, but it doesn't. It kind of it varies. So when I put together something like The Story of Light, there's so much different variety, but that was conscious. I made the conscious decision, okay, I want, this song to be very, very dense and very melodic and very complex. And then I want this song to sound very compositional and have layers and layers. And then I want this song to be extremely simple and beautiful. And then you get like Creamsicle Sunset. It's basically a trio, And then, I want something really hairy and just guitar right in your face with some kind of interesting new technique. And then I get like Gravity Storm. So then I didn't sit and say, okay, I'm going to make a record that's all guitar, one kind of style, and, because that's what I know people want. I'd probably sell more records if I did that.
Yeah,
But I can't help it. I like being psychedelic.
yeah, well, it's one of the great things about you. You know, I always get the feeling that you're true. You know, and it's like that's kind of value these days. You know, just like I know that you're having fun doing what you do, and that it comes from your soul, so to speak, right?
Well, it comes from it comes from inspiration, the same place that it comes from anybody, and you can perhaps you can call that by different names, and one of those names might be soul.
Yeah.
You know, which is if you the word soul has it's another word that carries a lot of luggage. You know.
Yeah.
So what I consider the soul is that pure conscious awareness that's unformed and timeless and that resides underneath our identity and the noise of the mind and all of these things. And my understanding of what it is not an uncommon understanding. And all of the stuff, all of the real true spiritual teachers that I've come across virtually say the same thing. And one of those things is that's where inspiration comes from in everybody. You know, it has to pure. I mean, look, there's many ways to be inspired. Sometimes I'll listen to another artist that I like, and I'll kind of copy them. You know, that's very, very common. You know, I'll incorporate things that I heard into a song, and then I'll reshape it a bit so it sounds a little like, more like me. That's one way, and that's not entirely inspired. It's not uniquely inspired. It's more intellectually inspired.
Yeah.
So, I hear something and I identify with it, and I go, I like that. I'm going to do something that has a similar groove, and then I'll incorporate some of my own inspiration into it. But in order to come up with something totally new, totally fresh, totally original, and totally unique, it has to come entirely from your soul.
Yeah, definitely.
So to speak, you know?
Yeah, totally.
And then the one thing that also makes sense to me is there's only one soul. And it's expressing itself in an infinite amount of ways in the physical world because it is infinite, you know?
Yeah. That's the profound part, right? It's like, but
that's the profound part.
Yeah, but I love to be hearing this, and especially from you, man. It's a real special moment for me. I had to understand that. It's like really, really great to hear you say that. Can you, specifically on this part, can you remember any song at all from all of your albums that you can just spot, like it came from a real this inspiration you talk about, influenced by a certain specific important moment in your life? One of the songs you can say, this song I wrote just exactly because, I don't know, when your son was born or something like that.
Well, yeah, there's every song has some kind of inspiration to it, some kind of a spark, something that sparked it. There's different things that can inspire different songs. If you name a song, I can tell you what the inspiration was. But if I was to tell you
just one song
that just completely, the most unique piece of music that I've ever written, that came out of me, that was completely in the moment, and I felt came from that place of inspiration, that sounds to me to be something unique, fresh, new, and never really approached, that's uniquely me. There's one song that I would point to, and that's a song called Love Secrets on Passion and Warfare.
Love Secrets.
It really goes over people's heads, you know? But when I wrote that song, it was based on an inspiration that came from a place that was not of this world at all, you know? And I just kept following the thread and of what it was and what it is, you know, and that song came out. I do that to a greater or lesser degree in a lot of other things, but not as deeply because it's very esoteric music, you know.
Yeah. I get the point, definitely. I don't know if I'm taking much of your time. Just like I would be talking to you all day, but do I have time to a couple more questions, or just?
Okay.
I'm curious about the things you do when you're not on tour and you're not playing guitar, which is of course not a lot of time. But I remember there was this one time you were into kind of honey picking from bees.
Well, that's a hobby that I have.
You still have it?
Yeah. I have bees on my property. I have hives. And not many, you know. And it's a very simple hobby. It only takes a couple of hours every few months. But I like it. I like the bees. They're very peaceful. They're completely attached to nature. They're nature in the raw, you know. And when I'm with the bees, it's very easy to be a part of nature, you know, to feel that connection with the source. And that's one of the reasons why I keep the bees. But you can get that feeling from having a dog or a cat or, you know, anything, or a garden, you know. Whenever you're doing something that's very close to nature, it can help to bring you into a very sweet kind of a spot. And bees are just amazing, fascinating creatures, and it's an easy hobby. You know, a lot of people go, "Oh my gosh, you keep bees." But anybody can do it, and I highly recommended it. And you get honey.
It sounds dangerous. It sounds dangerous in a way.
No. Honeybees are not really dangerous. Only if you do stupid stuff, you know. You got to know how to handle them, and then they're great. They're beautiful. They don't, you know. They won't sting. They don't sting.
Great, Steve. Okay, I'll just do one.
The way that you keep the honeybees from stinging you is you got to love them.
that protects you.
Yeah.
That and a net that keeps them away from your body, right?
I'm sorry?
That and a net, like a kind of a net suit.
Yeah.
That keeps them away from
that and a bodysuit.
Great, exactly. All right, Steve, I'll just give you one last question and I'll let you go.
Okay.
You've done a lot of wonderful stuff as regards your shows. Like I've seen many of your shows, and you're constantly evolving and overcoming yourself in a way. You know, just like it becomes greater and greater and greater. Is there a show you thought of making and you haven't been yet able to build it to an extent? I mean, like something like really ambitious in a way. I mean, a show like the whole visual part.
The list is as long as your arm.
I'm not very tall. I'm not as tall as you, so my list would be a little
That's
shorter.
Okay. Because if there was 100 items on that list, I'd be lucky if I could accomplish 4 of them by the time I'm dead.
Could you just give us one?
The touring with a simple rock band is nice. A while ago, I put a band together with 2 violins, and I enjoyed that. My last band, I had an electric harp player in the band.
Yeah.
Some of the ideas that I'd like to develop for a band and a concert would be a band with 3 percussionists, a drummer and 2 percussionists. I'd like to do a band with a big horn section. I'd like to do a band with a whole choir.
Wow.
I'd like to, I have a project I'm working on that involves traveling to different countries and playing a new song in each country with an orchestra and a cultural group of sorts from that country and videotaping it and making episodes.
Count me in.
I want to get more into calligraphy. You know, I want to do shows that involve calligraphy and orchestrations. I mean, it goes on and on. You know, it's all about time and budget.
Yeah. We can rest assured that you're restless enough to be able to keep pursuing all this stuff, right?
Well, you know, I have to tell you, there comes a time in your life, or there came a time in my life not too long ago, where I realized that all of the ambition and all of the expectations of the various projects I want to do, they're not all going to get done. It's just impossible. When you're younger, you think you have all the time in the world. you know.
Yeah.
So, and then finally, when you get to a point where you realize you can't fool around anymore, you have to prioritize your time and do the things that are really important, and look, you know, and enjoy what you're doing when you're doing it, like it's your last project, you know, because it could be.
Yeah.
So that's the change that I went through. Was it's okay to have all these fantasies, but I'm not attached to them. You know, I'm only focused on what I'm doing at this very moment, because that's all there ever is the moment that you have right now.
Like your song
You
here
know,
and
if
now.
you're always thinking about the future projects, then they never come.
Yeah.
Because when you're working on something, you're always thinking about the next one. And it's okay to think about it for a moment, but you find the most rewarding creative activity is being very present with what you're doing in the moment, because that's all that life is just this moment right now.
I hear Devin Townsend saying, "Are you ready for the here and now?" Right?
Yeah, there you go.
Totally. Okay, Steve. Like I said, this is totally off the record now already. We just finished. It was an enormous pleasure. I would keep you here for the whole of the rest of the day. I would try to convince you to jam a little bit with me and everything, but I think you need to go too and do your stuff.
I'll tell you one little bit of trivia.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm asked what was my best show,
Uh-huh.
and I point to, I think it was the Real Illusions tour. No, it was before the Real Illusions tour. It was the Alive in an Ultra World tour.
Uh-huh.
I was sick. I was on tour and I was sick. I had like a flu. And I had 2 shows in Barcelona because they sold out, you know. So I was doing 2 shows in one night.
Wow.
And I was terribly ill. And the second show, I don't know what happened, but something kind of like kicked in.
Uh-huh.
And it's like everything was in almost like this surreal slow motion. And it was the best it was the best show I ever played. I don't know how it happened, but it was. So I'm looking forward to maybe having another best show I ever played in Barcelona.
Well, you just have to catch a flu.
Well, I'll try to do it without that. Okay, well, thanks a lot. It was good talking to you.
Thanks a lot, Steve. Take care.
Okay.